The good old days. Remember them? When we just had 4 channels on the TV and a sporting coupe had a big engine up front, drive being sent to the back from a manual gearbox. Problem is, of course, these days responsibility comes first, fun seems to come second. Except those wild and crazy Germans at BMW have let their hair down a little bit, and they want to relive some of the glory days of the past. Now, I don't speak German, but it wouldn't surprise me if the German word for fun didn't start with the letter M. Welcome to this week's road test review. Welcome to the BMW M2. Please sit yourself down, make yourself comfortable in the house of cars. Now, there was a time that if you wanted a driver-focused 2-door coupe from BMW that wasn't exactly shy when it came to performance, you bought an M3. But the M3's, well, it's grown considerably, shall we say, since that very first car, the E30. In fact, even since then, the E36 and the E46 cars, the new M3 is quite a large car. In fact, the M3 has 4 doors. If you want a 2-door version, obviously it's now called M4. But maybe it's just a bit too big, you know, and of course, whilst it's got a good engine there, you know, you can have it with 4-wheel drive and it comes with, you know, sort of like paddle shift gearboxes, and it's not exactly an inexpensive car anymore. Not that the M3 originally was a cheap car, but you know what I'm saying, it is quite pricey now. So what happens if you want to sort of like relive some of those glory days that I was talking about a little bit earlier? Well, thankfully someone at BMW thought of this, the M2, which is a 2 Series coupe fettled by those magicians at the M department, and it sticks to a tried and tested formula, the one that we all love from the M3s of old. In other words, a straight 6 engine up at the front, a manual gearbox, and drive being sent to the back wheels only, just as God intended. But here's the thing. Is it just a bit of a pretender, the M2? Is it really going to be as good as those halcyon days that we think of when we think of the original M3? And of course, the real king of the M3s, I think, the E46 M3. Well, I decided to get one in, use it for a week, and find out. And there's more to this video than just a straightforward review, because I've also teamed up with a very good friend of mine as well, Petrol Ped, because we've also put the car up against what we think could be its closest competitor. So if you're interested in knowing what we think of this one, plus what we think is its closest competitor, I'd stick around if I was you. So it's probably a good time for me to say, please make sure you're subscribed to the House of Cars channel, yeah? Once you've watched the video, if you enjoy it, give it a wee thumbs up, and of course, don't forget, leave us your thoughts in the comment section down below. Right, let's stick the M2 through the review first of all, and see what we think. But as always, let's take a look at the main points of the car before we head into the main review. So the smallest of the M cars, the M2 is a 2-door sports coupe, like I said, with a front-mounted 6-cylinder turbocharged engine driving the rear wheels only. It produces 473 PS and 550 Newton meters of torque. You do have the choice of either a 6-speed manual transmission or 8-speed auto. And it's priced from around £67,000 before options fitted. So far, so familiar M car, but can a little 2 Series really be worth nearly £70,000? And is it a true driver's car, especially against all those other M products that we're used to, such as the M3, the M4 and the M5? Well, in the first of a series of videos featuring the car, we're going to pop it through a House of Cars road test review and find out what we think. Now, as always, we're going to start with how the car looks, with the styling of it, and I'm going to be very honest with you right from the start. When I first saw pictures of the new M2, I really didn't like it. I thought, no, they've ruined it. I don't know what they've done. It's not a good looking car to me. But BMW have a trick, I think, with their design, because what seems to happen is on a first initial impression, we don't like it. And then gradually over time, the more we see it, the more we think, oh, actually, that is quite a good looking car. I really like this car. This design has really grown on me. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a massive lover of the 2 Series coupe, the standard 2 Series coupe, but when the M badge is applied to it, and sort of like the more sort of muscular look to the car, oh, I really like this. I'm not a big fan of the black wheels, okay, that's the only thing for me, and I get some people like them. And if you're a regular viewer of the channel, you know I've said that before. But I saw one last week on the motorway in a dark grey with silver wheels, and I thought it looked brilliant. I would think in black with silver wheels, this thing will look awesome. But I really like the way the car looks. The M2, not the regular 2 Series, but I really like this car. And as I say, it's that, there's an awful lot of referencing, I think, to previous M cars, you know, and sporty BMWs. You know, you can see sort of like those blistered wheel arches are a little bit reminiscent of the E30 M3, especially at the back. And the front of the car, it does remind me of the sort of the 1970s, you know, sort of like BMW touring cars with their very aggressive front splitters, you know, like the Batmobile, the 3-litre CSL. There's little references just here and there that just make you go, yeah, that's a proper M car. I really like that. And its front is dominated by this open up area here. I tell you what, it's a brilliant leaf catcher. I went down to West Sussex in the car the last couple of days because I've been filming with Petrol Ped. And he said he thinks I'd collected all of autumn in this front radiator section here because it was just filled with leaves. So you've got to be careful of that. But it's this big open section here, and it doesn't have the big sort of like, you know, rabbit tooth grille that you get with the M3 and the M4, which I think does help it. It's a bit more subtle, if a BMW can be subtle, you know, at the front is there. But the way it's all blacked out, you know, and you get the lovely little M2 badge in there and the sunken BMW round all there, but still the sort of like swollen nostrils or the kidney grills that you would expect. I really like it. I really, really do. And as I say, it just kind of grows on you. And of course, you get these extra sort of like vents at the side of there to get cool air into there. You get the front parking sensors, which are a little bit incongruous, just sort of stuck into that bit there. But maybe that's better than having them in there. And dare I suggest it might be cheaper to replace as well, if you do bump that. But yeah, it's aggressive, it's sporty. But in terms of its size, which I'm going to move on to in a minute, it's about right, I think. Now, cars are getting bigger, cars are getting heavier, because we as customers are demanding more from them, and of course legislation is demanding more of manufacturers to put more safety equipment on them and so forth and such like. So cars are getting heavier, they're getting bigger as well. To give you an idea of the size of the 2 Series, although we've said it's the baby M car, it's roughly the same sort of footprint as the E46 M3. So if you're my sort of age and you remember E46 M3s, this is a sort of similar size of car, which to me is a perfect size for that sort of like sporty coupe, if you like. You know, it's a nice compact size, it's usable on a daily basis, it's big enough to sort of like get kids in the back if you really need to. You can use it for shopping and all things like that. You could go on holiday with it and all the rest of it, but when the road opens up and you want to get a shuffle on, it's not too big and it's not too heavy. It's pretty good. And I think this is a great size of car. Anyway, there we go. Styling wise, what else have we got? Well, as I say, you've got the swollen wheel arches. They're not too noticeable at the front as such because they come out from the top. It's at the back. It just references, I think, that E30 M3 there with this sort of like bit here where you've got this little panel and or sort of like this little sort of like level out of the panel there just as it drops before it drops down again. I really like that. I think that's a real nice touch. You get the real squared off side sills as well to the car, which give it that sort of like hunkered down aggressive sort of look to it. 19-inch alloy wheels all round, okay? And this car sits on Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tyres. Now, I've been driving this car this week and I've done a lot of miles in this car and I've put it through its paces up and down the motorway, so just a comfortable sort of motorway drive. I've been up and down to West Sussex the last 2 days filming with Pete as well, and we have had some biblical weather. There was torrential rain day before yesterday and it just felt absolutely resolutely safe. So you've got a real nice sort of like combination of wheels and tyres on this car from the point of view of sort of like that sporty handling but also safety as well in wet weather. Really good tyres, those Michelin Pilot Sport 4Ss. The M mirror, as you would expect, doesn't quite join at the top like they used to on those old E36 cars, but you get the little blade bit at the top you can just get your hand through, which I quite like. That's nice. They're not too big, they're nice and subtle. You get the gloss black shadow line, I think as they call it, round there, which is nice, which gives it that, again, that subtle sort of like aggression. And this is the thing with the M2, there's a lot of reference to BMW design, as I say, as much as it can look quite challenging from certain angles. There's your Hofmeister kink that you get on the old, well, through all BMWs. That's really cool, I like that there. And again, although it's the same size wheels, front and rear, they just seem to sort of like, you know, be quite good. Pete was saying the other day he doesn't think they fill the arches quite so good. They maybe need little spacers on them, but not too much, just to bring them out a little bit. And I do sort of see what he's saying. Now, there's some options fitted to this car, which I'll talk about in the pricing section. You get the red brake calipers, they're an option. The fire red metallic paint, which I really like. Don't like the black wheels, but I like the fire red metallic paint. This car also comes with, this press car is also fitted with the M track pack as well, which gives it a carbon roof, the carbon backed bucket seats, which we'll talk about a little bit later on, and the M driver's pack as well. Okay, so that's what's fitted to this car. So you can't have a sunroof if you go for that, because obviously it gets the carbon roof. But I like its size. I like the references in its design to previous generation of BMWs and BMW M cars. I just think it's starting to really grow on me. I think it's a really good looking little BMW, I really do. The bit of the 2 Series, standard 2 Series coupe I was never very keen on was these funny shaped lights. I always thought they were just a bit too big and out of proportion, but again, when it's the M2 it changes it, because you get that bigger rear arch, and it just sort of tones them down a little bit and they look a bit more in proportion, and I really like it there. It sort of reminds me of the bum of the old BMW 1M. Remember that car? Just that nice kind of swollen, subtly aggressive type of bum on the car. I think they've got it nailed, I really do. You've got obviously the little boot lid spoiler just attached to the top of the boot lid there. Now, this is the facelifted M2, okay? The M2's been out a little while, this is a facelifted car, but BMW have now shown as well the M2 CS, okay? So if you go back to the sort of like the M3, the E46 M3, and you know, later ones as well, they've done CSLs, but they've also done this midpoint CS, this sort of club sport, I suppose. And it has the different boot lid on the back of it, which reminds me of the old E46 CSL M3's boot lid, with this big high integrated rear spoiler. I quite like the sort of like subtle aggression of this, but I am quite interested to see what that M2 CS drives like. Hint, hint, BMW. Anyway, there we go. As I say, that swollen arch really works well. Their new reprofiled bumper, obviously, you get the slightly more reprofiled side step, the reflectors there. Of course, you get the aggressive quad exhausts across the back with this gloss black diffuser, so they just blend them in a little bit to that. Very subtle badging, just your BMW Roundel M2 badge there, and some bits of tech on it as well, such as your reverse camera and reversing sensors across the back. So, look, as I say, it might be a controversial thing to say, especially around BMW design, but I really like this car. I think they've got it absolutely right. As I say, I'm not a massive fan of the standard 2 Series coupe. It looks a bit awkward and a bit gawky looking, but turn it into an M2 and all of a sudden it all starts to come together for me. I love the references to BMWs of old, to older M cars as well. I think they've judged it just right, and I think they've done it well. But that's my opinion, and let's be fair, my opinion isn't the same as everyone else's opinion, because they're like your derriere, as my dad would say, in a less polite way. Everyone's got one. So what's your opinion of it? Do you like it? Have you got one? Have you got one? Have you owned one for a couple of years, the older car? Have you ordered a new one? What do you think? Did you buy it instead of the M4? Did you buy it instead of something else? Did you not buy it because you didn't like the way it looked? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Now, one of the great things about the very first M5, the E28 model, was that it was a regular 5 Series saloon car, you know, so it was that executive, 4-door executive saloon car, just like a 528i, but it went like a Porsche. That was the whole sort of selling point of sort of like the first productionized M car. You know, if you forget the M1 as that supercar, if you look at that M5, and obviously since then, that's exactly sort of the premise that the M cars have had. They've had the practicality of the car that they're based on, but of course with the performance advantage of being through the M department, and the M2 is no different. It's a reasonable size of boot. It's 390 litres, which isn't bad for a compact sort of like, you know, 2-door sports coupe. Now, I've only got my 3 suitcases today because Liz, my other half, is away for the evening, but even so, that's the large one which goes in there. There's a medium one which goes in there, and there's one carry-on because she's got the other one, and that fits down there. So I wouldn't get the 4 of them in there, but there is still space for rucksack, camera bag, you know, my GoPro mounts and things like that there. So again, a good sensible size of boot considering the size of car. What more could you ask for? I'm going to have to do this, haven't I? The little bit of dignity that I have left is about to disappear, folks, because I really do have to show you what it's like in the back of this car. Just remember, you know, I'm in my 50s, but if I clamber in here, and bearing in mind this is my driving position, although, oh yeah, how's it going to slide back? That isn't bad. That's okay. Now I'm 5'8", okay, so that is my driving position with these carbon backed bucket seats, and I have my driving position all the way down to the floor, and I can still get my feet underneath the seat. There's actually a reasonable bit of room here. I don't feel too claustrophobic, and there's a reasonable size of window as well. So if you're thinking about it as a family car, and I use the term loosely, but you know what I mean, you and your partner and 2 kids type of thing, because you can't get 3 because you've got this middle section here where there obviously a person can't sit. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. Headroom is tight for me. I can now just start, I'm brushing the ceiling of the car here, and I'm, as I say, I'm 5'8". So if your kids are 6 foot, which let's be fair, some kids are, especially teenagers, they're not going to find this very comfortable. But in terms of, you know, smaller children, my daughter's 11, she would sit back here quite comfortably and have enough space. So yeah, can't complain at all. I mean, there's nothing really else to talk about. You know, there is a fold down rear seat to the car, which, so there isn't really an armrest, but there is that load through facility. So again, if you were having a, I don't know, you've been to your local DIY emporium and you need some longer shelves or something, or planks of wood through there, or some, I don't know, some pipes for some plumbing or whatever, you can get them through. And I suppose it could double as an armrest, but there's no cup holders in it as such. But the isofix points are nice and easy to get to. And as I say, there's a little tray here, they can put bits and pieces in, but there's no connectivity or cup holders or stuff like that. So just bear that in mind. It is a little bit more pared back than maybe some are. But in terms of actual space, it's not bad. Now I'm going to talk about the interior of the car, and obviously pros and cons for it as well. There's more pros for it than cons in my opinion, okay? BMW just seem to do this really, really well. Maybe it's me, maybe because I've had a couple of BMWs, and I had a BMW iX2 as a long-term test car. I lived with one for 6 months when I was working at Auto EV, and it's a similar sort of layout to this. And I really get on well with it, because they just seem to blend this modernity of screens, but then with some traditional buttons and, you know, usual BMW sort of stuff. And I think they do it really, really well. You might feel differently, but I genuinely get on really, really well with this BMW, you know, sort of user interface. I think they just, it works. It just works for me. Obviously, you get things such as Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. The big screen up here, of course, you get this kind of panoramic. You know, it's slightly curved as well, which is what I also like, you know, like the old BMW dashboards. And then of course you've got all your apps here. There is a lot, you know, you look at it first, you go, jeepers, that's an awful lot to go through. However, you can take some shortcuts. So for instance, this is everything, but for instance, if you just want to go to your infotainment app, boom, there you go. So all the stuff that you would use for infotainment, you know, Spotify, Android Auto, CarPlay, you know, I don't know why Ringo is in there. Oh, it's because it's in CarPlay, that's why. There's stuff like that. But then you just want stuff for vehicle, you just press the vehicle one, and that's just all the stuff that, you know, it narrows it down to just all the vehicle settings. So once you start to get used to it and navigate your way around it, it is pretty good, and it is very, very easy to use. Obviously, with it being an M car, you get some various different things which are unique to the car. Your M Drift Analyzer. I genuinely haven't used that. I promise you, BMW, I haven't. You know, so you know your M Traction. You know, you can vary the level of traction control that you've got on it. You know, for your next drift. Your best drift, if you want, your drift angle, the drift distance. I mean, it is a little bit computer game like, isn't it? And you know, maybe it's suggesting that we all need to be a bit more hooligans, but I don't know, maybe it's a fun thing to have. It's not something I would ever use. However, there's a lap timer in there, the M lap timer. You only use private roads, yeah, we know that. I suppose if you use the car from the point of view of track days, you know, why wouldn't you? You know, there you go there. I'll just have to stop that because I'm not on a track. But you know what I mean, you know, and you know, M cars, there's no reason, that's the whole point of them. You can use them, you know, Monday to Friday as your normal everyday car, and at the weekend you can take it to a track day and do it. So yeah, I can understand why that would be there. No different to having different gauges on cars that they used to have, but it's all digitalised now, and that's quite cool. Yeah, so that's all of that. And as I say, of course, you've got your usual things, I say, such as Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. You've got navigation. You've got, you know, a Harman Kardon audio system, which is quite decent. There's also a BMW personal assistant as well, you know, for voice activation. There's stuff like that. The only maybe downside in some respects is all your climate control is in the screen, so there's no separate controls down here, but it is permanently on. So for instance, if you press the little fan speed button there, You know, you can up and down your temperature on the side there. It's obviously dual zone. You can sync it up, but it brings up a menu here, and you can vary where you want it to go, you know, by touching the screen, you know, up to the screen, that type of thing. You can up and down your fan speed on there. And it's quick to respond, and it's quite nice and easy to use. But I do also appreciate it is on a screen rather than just using controls, which are down here, or rocker switches or buttons, which might have been a good idea. But, you know, most cars are going this way. I'm not going to certainly lay the blame at BMW's door for having climate controls on a screen. What I will say is that it works well, and it's very quick to respond. So from that point of view, it's very good. Okay, and you things such as obviously heated seats and heated steering wheel, that's in there as well. So you need to go into your climate, then get your heated seat and steering wheel if you want that on as well. So there we go. Also, you guys see you've got audio, you've got radio, you get Spotify, you get CarPlay as well. You get navigation. There's your apps. There's your mobile, your telephone, and you go straight into your CarPlay. Okay, so all of that's there. Nice and straightforward, yeah. Then you've got the lap timer's still running. Why is that still doing that? Hang on. I don't want them thinking that I've been driving this on it. Stop. There we go. Then you've got the screen here, okay? So you've got no sort of like dials as such. You've got the bar graphs at the side. I might need to start the car up for this, so bear with me a second as the car starts. Yes, I don't know if you can see this. I've got the speedometer there on the left, my gear shift there on the right. I've got rev counter as a bar up there, and speed on a bar on this side as well. I've got range and stuff to go. However, you can change what you can see in the middle there as well. So if I press this button here and go into content, he says, there we go. So you can have, you know, a G meter in there. You can have your music, your media control in there, or content as it says. You can have, you know, various different other bits and pieces, such as how much torque you're using, how much horsepower you're using. Where was the other thing there I saw as well? Tire temperature and pressures, that's there. You know, engine temperature, that type of thing. So you can configure this quite nicely depending obviously on what you like to see. You can also put, he says, I'm sure I'm right in saying this, I think you can also put the navigation in there as well. You've also got a head-up display, which you can configure as well, depending on what you want to see. You can put your navigation up in the head-up display. That's quite nice, or you can have it quite a basic, reduced view, as BMW call it. So there's a lot of configuration on the screens, which is nice. As I say, you can set it up how you like it. And I think BMW, as I say, do it really, really well. It's very clear, it's very easy to see. All the relevant information is there. That's nice and easy to use. And because it's so close to you, it's all done through touchscreen. You don't need to use the iDrive controller. But you still have an iDrive controller. Look, it's one of the BMWs that do have it. So you can go through it. And it's weird, obviously, because obviously Apple CarPlay is designed to be used more from touch, obviously, like your phone. So it doesn't work so well on Apple CarPlay with the iDrive controller, but going through the actual BMW apps is quite a good thing as well. Plus you get some physical shortcut buttons around here as well. So, and they're on just this one switch pack, which moves obviously. So if you want straight to media, you press the media, there it brings that up. Straight to the home screen, brings that up. Straight to your map, brings that up. Or you can go back, and then there's your options there as well. You can go into general help, and then you can nudge it forward and backwards for track search and other things like that. So that's quite nice. You've still got it, so your passenger can use that rather than maybe leaning across to you. But it's so close, it's just as easy to use the screen. All right, I'm not going to talk any more about that. That's that done. I also like the ventilation. The vents here, because the light, it reminds me of my old Saab 9.5. It's got these lovely little tactile joysticks to adjust the blades of the fan and the blades of the vent in there. That's really nice. So they're hidden in this sort of like gap here, and you just use these little joysticks to direct airflow. Really nice, really easy to use on the move as well. That's what I like about those, and that's on all four of the vents across it. I'm not so keen on this plastic strip here, which is a button, one big button. So for pressing the rear window on and off, and I'd rather that was all separate buttons, but that's a personal thing. With your hazards in the middle and track search, but you do get a standard volume control, a physical volume control for volume on the radio there, and also you can use it on the steering wheel as well as you can for track search. Steering wheel controls, nice and easy. Cruise control on left, media controls on the right, as well as your telephone, and you get these two little M buttons here, M1 and M2. So this basically means you can set up drive modes how you want it, okay? So for instance on M1, I'll talk about this more when I go out for a drive, but for instance on M1, we've got the engine mapping into sport, we've got the gear shift assistant, we'll talk about that a bit later on. The adaptive dampers are in sport, steering's in sport, and the brakes are set into sport. Okay, so if that's your sort of, dare I suggest, your road mode for really sporty driving, you can program that into M1. But then, as I say, if you go to a track and you've got a more aggressive sort of style, you can program that to M2. So there we are now. So the engine goes into Sport Plus, the gear shift assistant is off, the adaptive damper is in Sport Plus, steering and brakes are in sport. So you can change it, and then you press the one that you want for the mood that you're in. I don't know if you also heard there as well, the exhaust rumble became a lot deeper as well. So you've got a switchable exhaust on it as well. So that comes on and off when you go into those M modes. The other thing that those M buttons do as well, they turn off the stop start, and they also turn off the lane keep assist. Okay, so that's what they do as well. To turn off your speed limit warning, you just press and hold set for, I think it's 3 seconds, and it deactivates your speed limit warning. So that's quite good. So I do like all of that. That's nice, and I quite like the fact you can set them up, and it's nice. You don't need to fiddle around with the screen. Once you've set it how you want it, as I say, for instance, driving down to Pete's house yesterday, you know, M1 was why I quite like it in M1. So you go into the M1 mode, and then you don't need to go in and fiddle around with the screen too much. Just press the button, job done, car set up for you. Great. How do you take it off again? There you go. Did you hear that? I don't know if you heard that exhaust. It goes off a bit there. Right, so that's that. The steering wheel's too thick. Too thick. Again, BMW, stop doing these thick steering wheels. I don't know why you think it's a good idea. It's not. They're just too thick for my tiny wee hands. Like my big, I've got sausage fingers, but small hands, and that's the thing. I just don't particularly like them. They don't feel particularly tactile either. It's a nice design of wheel. I like the wheel, and it's nice. It's nice in the terms it's leather covered with the carbon bits on the infills, but it's just too thick. It needs to be thinner rimmed. There you go. This has also got the carbon fibre trim here, so you get this carbon fibre, this glossy carbon fibre here and here. Really like that. That suits it, as well as on the steering wheel. You got nice physical controls for lights and stuff down your doors, and of course window switches down there. Right, practicalities. It's not perfect. You get 2 cup holders, which if you try and put a big coffee flask in, or my water bottle in there, you're going to whack your hand off it every time you go into first or third gear, and it doesn't really sit in there that well. So there you go, see. But it is shaped for one in the door bin, so I can't complain too much. But I had my Yeti coffee cup in there the other day. I was driving up to the NEC, got the classic car show in the car, and I was slow moving traffic, and every time I went in first gear, knuckles hitting the coffee cup. First world problem, folks, eh? There's a wee tray in there as well for putting various bits and pieces in, like a packet of Polo Mints. You can cover that up, which is nice. The wireless charging pad is on the vertical down in the armrest here, and I tell you what, my phone got really hot the other day in that. Watch that. That's really, I don't know if that's a BMW thing or just generally, but yeah, it got really hot in there. I've mentioned about the iDrive controller. There's some other buttons here, so for turning your parking sensors on and off, for switching the stop start on and off. The engine start stop button is down here as well. The setup M modes are down here, and the exhaust, switchable exhaust, that's there too. Right, M track pack that this car has, let's say the carbon roof. I want to talk about these seats, okay? These carbon bucket seats, they're electrically adjustable, okay? They're heated, okay, as well. That's really good. I like that. They've also got memory positioning on the driver's side, as you would expect, okay? When you get in them, they just clamp you in place, yeah? And they are comfortable over a long drive to some extent, because I say I went up the motorway the other day. It's just a 2-hour slog up to Birmingham, 2-hour back, you know, 200 odd miles there and back type of thing, and the car was fine from a certain point of view. You don't get out feeling all contorted and stuff. They do hold you in place. And driving down to Pete's yesterday, down the back roads of West Sussex, fabulous, love it. The downside is a couple of things. One, they've got this big, there's no other way to put it, carbon fibre cod piece right between your legs. Now, it's annoying enough when you're a bloke, but I can imagine as a woman driver, especially as I say, if you're using the car through the week, you know, maybe you're using it to go to the office and stuff, and you still wear skirts and things, that's going to be annoying. You've got to really think about this, whether you would have these or not, I think. The other thing is, it's great if you're a lithe and nimble little thing, but when you're a fat 52-year-old like I am, getting in and out of these things, it can be a little bit of a bore. I have to admit that. But once you're in them, they are very nice. They do hold you well. So just be aware before you tick that option box, do you really want them? Yeah, just from a point of view of how you're going to use the car. They're trimmed really nicely. You've got the leather down it, and of course they've got this, like, you know, this very thin backrest with the vents through it. And the same on the side, and they've got suede down the side of the bolsters, and this leg bolsters, and then leather, and the rest of it carbon around the back. It's blue leather there. The M2 that lights, the M2 logo that lights up as well, and of course the holes, for instance, if you're putting harnesses. They look sensational. As I say, when you're in them, they're great. The other downside with them on this car is because of this, okay? The pedals are slightly offset in the car. So when you operate the clutch pedal, my leg is now over this carbon codpiece. That's the only downside. I feel the inside of my thigh going across the top of that carbon codpiece. So, you know, again, you can have the car as an 8-speed auto. Just think about how you're going to use the car. If you want the manual car, maybe it'd be all right if you had the standard seats in it. So just all I'm saying is, that's my experience with the car over the last week. If you're going to look at one, make sure you have a good drive in it with these options fitted, if that's what you're looking at, because you might not get on with it quite so well. Apart from that, I love the interior of this car, I really do. As I say, it's very usable. I love it because, as I say, I get on really, really well with this. That's really nice and clear. The actual driving position, apart from that offset thing, because you can sit quite upright and get the wheel quite close into your chest. So for a real proper sporty driving, you do feel like you're properly in it. And I like to be down in the car, and again, you sit really nice low in the car and really hunkered down in it. And it just all wraps around. I know it sounds like a corny thing to say, cliche, but all car just wraps around you as a driver, and I really like that about it. As I say, it's not a perfect interior, far from it, but it is very, very good. And as I say, we'll talk a bit more about the driving modes and the position of the seats and stuff when we go for a drive. Okay? Now, as I said earlier, exactly like, dare I suggest, some of BMW's best drivers' cars, the layout is what you would expect. A straight 6 engine up at front, 3 litre in capacity, driving through a 6-speed manual gearbox to the rear wheels. You don't get X-Drive as a choice in the M2, it's rear wheel drive only. Rear wheels to drive, front wheels to steer, as God intended, all right? It puts out 473 PS, okay, and 550 Newton meters of torque. It delivers its power. It is turbocharged, but here's the thing. I mean, we'll talk about this when we go out for a drive. I don't want to bore you too much here, but it doesn't feel turbocharged. That's the nice thing about it. It feels like you do feel a little step in power, but not as much as you do like old school turbos with loads of lag on it. But I tell you what, this is a real gem of an engine. I really, really like it. Economy wise, you're probably looking at sort of like early 20s as a combined figure, in fairness, which isn't as bad as the efficiency we've got out of the car that we've put it up against, where Pete and I have done a twin test with this car and something else. But you'll see that when you watch the other videos. Anyway, enough of me talking. Shall we go for a drive? Yeah, let's do that. You'll notice a little bit of difference of continuity, however, because I'm wearing a different shirt. That's because I filmed the drive in it down the roads of West Sussex yesterday. So we're going to join Brian from the past on a drive through West Sussex. Right, so the BMW M2, what's it like? Well, I'll tell you exactly what it's like. It's like a proper old school M car, and I absolutely love it. Let me just explain a little bit more what I mean by that, because at the end of the day, what you have here is what BMW M cars for me have always really been about, which is they are generally a standard type of BMW, usable everyday BMW saloon, coupe or whatever, and then taken to such a degree that you just find it phenomenal that there are lesser models than this in the range that have 1.6, 1.8 or diesel engines or whatever. That's what this car exactly is. The car this really reminds me of is the E46 M3, okay? Now, to me, at my age, I'm in my 50s now, you know, and you remember BMW's, you know, the E30 M3s, the E36s and E46. But the E46 M3 for me was sort of like peak M3. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It was compact, but it was high performance. It was usable, yet when you got it on this phenomenally twisty road, you could really dial into the chassis, you could really get that engine howling away at the top end of the rev range, and that's exactly what you have. And that's exactly what you have here with this M2. It's powered by a 3 litre straight 6 engine. It's turbocharged, but it's powered by a 3 litre straight 6 engine that puts out 473 PS. It does 0 to 60 in 4.2 seconds. Now this is a 6-speed manual, this car. You can have it with an 8-speed DCT as well, which no doubt probably accelerates a little bit quicker, but I don't know if you'd need much more than that, in fairness. But it's not just the speed, it's not the numbers, it's not the performance numbers, it's how it delivers on the performance for me that just feels right. You sit cocooned in this cockpit with it wrapping around you almost like all good BMWs do. You've got this too thick, in fairness, 3-spoke steering wheel, which is just the nice sort of diameter. It's got just the right amount of buttons. It's a nice design, which is sort of quite close into your chest. You are clamped by these carbon bucket seats, which I'll talk about in a second, and you've just got this compact sports saloon or coupe wrapped around you, and you just can feel dialed into the machine. Nobody really does it like BMW M department, in my opinion. No one can really get that. Maybe Porsche gets close to it in some respect with certain cars, but that sort of relationship you have as a driver with the sort of like the engineering of the machine, I think is just something that BMW do so well and so much better than the likes of Audi or Mercedes AMG. Now these seats, let me just talk about them. They are part of this track pack option thing, which is 10 grand. You know, it's a lot of money. You get the carbon roof, you get loads of other bits and pieces, but you also get these carbon seats. Now they are phenomenally, they are phenomenal once you're in them. You know, they really clamp you like a vice, and your driving position is just dead on. They're also comfortable to do a long drive in. I took the car up to Birmingham from my house the other day, 2-hour drive up, 2-hour drive back, didn't feel achy, didn't feel, I need to get out and stretch, or these are just jamming into my back. Not at all. Very comfortable seats. There's only 2 real downsides with it. First of all is this little carbon codpiece, for want of a better word, down between your legs, which is not ideal. And I would suggest that obviously if you are a lady driver and you do wear skirts occasionally, that's not going to be ideal for you. Also, getting in and out requires you to not have the sort of like the body of just a fat 50-year-old bloke like me. That's the downside, okay? The upside is, as I say, the driving position when you're in here is, dead on center. The only other downside is with the manual gearbox, the pedals do seem a little bit offset to the right. So I do have to sort of like skew my legs a little bit, which then makes my left leg it doesn't rest on that carbon piece, but you are more aware of it as you're changing gear. That's the downside. Right, the gearbox. Right, 6-speed manual, really, really nice. The lever's a nice short stubby lever. The transmission tunnel's quite nice and high where I've got my seat. So again, that relationship with the wheel, the transmission lever, feels good. The downside is it's a bit like BMW manual gearboxes of old. It's got a slight springiness to it. It's not quite as sharp, it's not quite as precise as some other gearboxes that I've driven recently, and that is a little bit of a downside. It's very good, but it's just that little bit springy occasionally. You just can feel just a tiny little bit of reluctance maybe to engage the gear occasionally. That's the only other thing. However, that is, as far as I'm concerned, all the flaws over on this car, because the rest of it is superb. Now, the performance, as I said to you, is just part, the numbers are just part of what makes this car fantastic. You've got 2 buttons here on the steering wheel. You can change various elements of it. So if I go into M1 now, what this now sets me up is the engine's now in sport. We've got the gear shift assistant on. We've got the adaptive dampers into sport. We've got the steering in sport, and we've got the brakes set up as sport now. So that's M1. You've then got another setting you can configure with M2. So for instance, you could maybe say, so why would you do that? Well, maybe what you want is, you want one for sort of like fast road driving, and then maybe another for track if you do track days. It's nice then to set it all up for a track if you want it, where you can be a bit more aggressive with the throttle mapping, a bit more aggressive with the steering, or you don't have that gear shift on, you want to heel and toe yourself. Let me explain that gear shift thing. It just gives that little bit of a rev match on the downshift. So it's almost like that perfect sort of heel and toe. As you downshift for a bend, it just rev matches and just sets you up nicely with engine and gearbox. perfectly in sync with one another. So that's why you've got the two buttons there, and as I say, that's why you're allowed to configure it. You can also go into the traction control system and have various degrees of that available to you. So again, for instance, maybe on a track you might want a little bit more slip, you want a little bit more control of it yourself, so you can sort of like loosen the traction control off. But maybe on a road, especially in November where we're driving now, on these kind of greasy damp roads around West Sussex, you maybe just want a little bit more of a safety net, so you can have that in one of the settings. But listen, oh my lord, that engine is just, you can keep your V8s, you can keep them. Give me a BMW straight six anytime. This thing sounds incredible. And you don't even know it's turbocharged. There's no real turbo feel to the engine. Such is the way that BMW have engineered this car. There really isn't any sort of like turbo lag or step change in anything. It's just this continuous power delivery all the way up the rev band. It's just glorious. It really is. And as I say, for me, this is what M cars are about. I don't want to sound horrible. If you've got an M4, brilliant. It is a great car. I can understand why you have it, but it's just got a little bit big for me. Just dare I suggest almost a little bit too powerful. This is about right. Now, there's an argument would say, do you even really need 400 odd horsepower in this car? Well, I would argue you probably do in this in some respects, because the weight of the car has gone up, because obviously safety legislation, what we want in cars now, cars have got bigger. The footprint of this car is very similar to an E46 3 Series, but this is a 2 Series. So it is quite, you know, it's 1750 kilos unladen, this car. So having, you know, 473 horsepower, you probably do want that. 20 years ago, you'd have got away with 320. Not now, with a car this sort of weight and size to shift around. You need a bit more power, and that's why you've got it with this. But it doesn't feel overwhelming power. It doesn't feel like all of a sudden you can't just jump in it and drive it to Sainsbury's to go and get a pint of milk. It doesn't feel like you can't take your kids to school in it. The suspension, because it's got the adaptive damping system into it, the suspension's quite compliant. As I say, 2 hours on the motorway the other day, felt like I may as well just been driving a 220D. You know, that's how good it was. But then you've got all of this power, yet when the mood is right, you get it onto this B road in West Sussex, and the thing just comes alive underneath you. This is a phenomenally good car. This, to me, is one of BMW's best products. They are absolutely, this is a proper return to form for me. If you were worried that the BMW M cars were just getting a bit big, a bit bloated, just a little bit too big for their own boots, go and drive an M2. They've got a CS model of this coming out, you know, a lightened version of it. My God, I don't know how they're going to improve on this, but if it is better, hats off to you, BMW, because this, I think this is as close to perfection as you can get in an M car. And I really do mean that, as a big fan of BMW M cars, and the M3 especially, when the old E46 was around. This thing, this is up there with the greats, I think. What a car. Right, price for the car. Well, it's a bit, well, I say it's a bit confusing. It was confusing to me, at least. I looked on BMW's website for this car, and it said the prices start at £67,000. But according to the specification sheet they sent me for this car, it actually starts at £63,360. Now, admittedly, that's before registration and road tax and stuff like that. But anyway, let's call it 65 grand, shall we? That's where you're at, really. This particular car, however, does have some options fitted to it, as I said to you. So it has the fire red paint, the metallic paint. That's a really nice colour, this, I like that, £595. Manual transmission, that's an option and a cost option, £545. Now, as I say, drive one, see if you get on with it with a slightly offset driving position before you tick the box. Don't automatically just go for it, automatically. Have a try in it and see what you think. What else has it got? It's got the M brakes with red calipers, £275. I think that's just for the paint of the calipers. But then it's got this M Race track package, which is the carbon roof, the M carbon bucket seats, and the M driver's pack. No idea what that is. That's a £10,915 option, okay? So this particular car that I have here on the road is 74,983, okay? which sounds like a lot of money, but that track pack thing, bear in mind, you don't have to have that. So as I say, you're probably looking at round about somewhere in the mid to late 60s for a nice car with some options on it, depending how you want it, okay? Now, as I say, if you think £75,000, that sounds like a lot of money, Brian, and it is a lot of money. That brings me neatly on to competition, which we're not going to talk about, because I'm going to leave it now for another video that we've done, as I say, with Petrolped, in association with Petrolped, where we're going to put this car up against what we think is its main rival. So I'll finish this video, and once you've sort of like watched this, hopefully, wait for that one till you see what we think its main competitor is. I think you might be surprised. I'm not going to lie about this. I was a little bit worried about this car before it arrived. There was a part of me just thought, it's the 2 Series. I'm not a great lover of the way that it looks. Are they sort of spreading themselves a little bit too thin? Is an M3 or an M4 really the car that you should buy? Is that the real true successor to those M cars? I needn't have worried, because I think this is an absolute belter of a car. I'm not going to lie about it. I think it's bloody brilliant. I genuinely loved every single mile that I've put under the wheels of this car, and I have done a fair few miles in this thing. The thing about it is this: the looks have certainly grown on me over time, there's no doubt about it, and I love the way that this car looks, but it's the way that it drives that's really excited me, because it's a proper old school M car, i.e. it's a straight 6 engine at the front, it sends drive through a manual gearbox to the rear wheels. That's it. It is as simple as that. And that simple formula, there's no X drive, there's no big heaviness to it, there's no silly gadgets and stuff in it. It's just pure and simply a driver focused M car. But it's as usable as a BMW 2 Series. That's the great thing about it, and that's what I used to love about the old M3s. You know, the E36, the E46 M3. It was just a 3 Series. Monday to Friday, it was just like any other 3 Series. Yet Saturday and Sunday, when you let your hair down and you find yourself on a nice deserted B road in the countryside somewhere, boy did they come alive. And it's exactly the same with this. A brilliant engine going through a great gearbox, sending drive to the rear wheels, and a fabulous chassis. Simple formula. It's what BMW do really well. I don't just think that the M2 is one of BMW's best cars. I think it's one of its best M cars. I really do. It's that good. And I'll tell you now, if you haven't driven one of these, and if you've dismissed it because you think, oh, it's not an M3, it's like people used to dismiss Boxsters by saying, well, you only buy a Boxster because you can't afford a 911. Don't think that you'd only buy an M2 because you can't afford to buy an M3 or an M4. Not at all. You buy an M2 because you know what makes a great M car. And trust me, this is a great M car. Thank you for watching another road test review here on House of Cars. Please make sure you are subscribed to the channel, and when you've done that, make sure you've turned on your notifications so you don't miss the next review when it is uploaded and it has gone live. Now, here's a little thing to tell you, a wee confession to make to you. I no longer work at Auto EV, so House of Cars is my only channel now, so if you're interested even in electric cars as well, I will be reviewing them here as well. So please make sure that you've turned on those notifications and you are subscribed so you don't miss the next review when it's uploaded and gone live. Have you got one of these? Also, let me know what you think about it in the comment section down below. That's really important to me as well. I want to get a little community sort of going here with lots of chat going. Whether you agree with me or disagree with me, just be kind, that's all I ask. You know, but put your thoughts in the comment section down below, because I think that's important too. Now remember, I'm on Instagram as well. If you want to follow me there, it's at House of Cars 1973. So if you give me a follow there, I'd surely appreciate it. And remember, also make sure you're following Petrolped, okay? Because we're going to be doing a series. This is one of a series of videos with this car and another car that he had, and we've got a little collaboration together. So if you're not a follower of Petrolped, make sure you go and follow him. It's free, it doesn't cost you anything, it's not a subscription service. Just go and subscribe to his channel, because he does loads of stuff, way more than what I do, and he's a good guy, okay? And remember, whether or not it is a small car or a large car, a slow car or a fast car, an old car or a new car, you'll find them all here in the House of Cars. Thank you again for watching. Thank you for your continued support. I will see you again soon, as well as on the Petrolped channel.